Imagine driving your car 1,300 feet underwater. That's deeper than the Empire State Building is tall. Fish swimming above your roof, crushing ocean pressure all around you, but you're cruising at 50 miles per hour like you're on any regular highway. Norway is spending $2 billion to dig the world's deepest underwater tunnel. Not for trains, not for utilities, for regular cars and trucks. The Rogfast tunnel will plunge 1,300 feet beneath the Norwegian Sea. To put that in perspective, if you stacked 4 Statue of Liberties on top of each other, this tunnel would still be deeper. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. Norway has calculated that this underwater highway will actually make them money. A lot of money. And the way they're building it is so revolutionary that countries around the world are already copying their techniques. Right now, if you want to travel from Stavanger to Bergen in Norway, you have a problem. These 2 major cities are separated by a maze of fjords. Those deep, narrow inlets carved by ancient glaciers. Your journey looks like this. Drive to a ferry, wait, board the ferry, cross the water, get off, drive to another ferry, wait again. Repeat this dance 7 times. What should be a 3-hour drive becomes an 8-hour odyssey, sometimes longer if the weather's bad and ferries get cancelled. Norwegian families have been dealing with this for generations. Business owners lose millions in shipping delays. Emergency vehicles get stuck waiting for ferries while people need help. The ferry companies are making good money, sure, but Norway realized something. They're losing way more money than they're making. Every hour a truck sits waiting for a ferry, that's lost productivity. Every tourist who decides the journey is too complicated, that's lost revenue. Every business that can't expand because transportation is unreliable, that's lost opportunity. So Norway did the math. They calculated that the economic benefit of connecting these regions would pay for the tunnel within 25 years. But building the world's deepest underwater tunnel is not like digging a regular tunnel. At 1,300 feet underwater, the pressure is incredible. We're talking about 40 times normal atmospheric pressure. That's enough to crush a car like a soda can. The rock down there isn't just rock. It's been compressed and twisted by millions of years of geological pressure. Sometimes it's harder than steel. Sometimes it crumbles like cheese. And then there's the water, not just regular groundwater seepage. We're talking about the full weight of the Norwegian Sea trying to flood your tunnel. Most engineers would look at this and say, impossible. Norway's engineers said, challenge accepted. Their solution? Something called the drill and blast method, but supercharged with 21st century technology. They're using explosives so precisely calibrated that they can blast through solid rock without disturbing the tunnel structure just feet away. GPS-guided drilling rigs that can place charges accurate to within inches. But here's the really clever part. They're not fighting the water pressure, they're using it. Traditional underwater tunnels try to keep all water out. Norway realized that's actually the hard way to do it. Instead, they're building what's called a drained tunnel. They're letting controlled amounts of water in, then pumping it out continuously. Think of it like this. Instead of building a completely waterproof submarine, they built a submarine with a really good drainage system. This approach has 3 huge advantages. First, it's way cheaper. You don't need exotic waterproofing materials that cost a fortune. Second, it's actually safer. If your waterproofing fails in a traditional tunnel, you get catastrophic flooding. If your pumping system fails here, you get manageable water flow. Third, it's easier to maintain. You can access and repair the drainage system without major reconstruction. Norway tested this technique on smaller tunnels first. It works so well that they're now the world leaders in underwater tunnel construction. Countries are literally sending delegations to Norway to learn these techniques. The numbers behind Rogfast are absolutely staggering. They're excavating 8 million cubic meters of rock. That's enough to build a pyramid bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The tunnel will be 27 kilometers long. That's 16.8 miles. You'll be driving underwater for about 20 minutes at highway speed. It will be 4 lanes wide, with emergency exits every 500 meters. Full cell phone coverage throughout. LED lighting that mimics daylight to prevent tunnel fatigue. But here's what really shows you the scale. They're using 15 different construction sites simultaneously. Some on land, some on artificial islands, some on floating platforms. The logistics are insane. They need to coordinate blasting schedules so the explosions don't interfere with each other. They need to transport millions of tons of excavated rock. They need to keep the whole operation running 24/7 to meet their 2033 deadline. And they're doing all of this while maintaining some of the strictest environmental standards in the world. This is where Norway really shows why they're different. Most megaprojects treat environmental protection as an afterthought. Norway made it central to their design. All that excavated rock, they're not just dumping it, they're using it to create new land areas for development. Artificial islands that will become ports, industrial areas, even residential communities. The tunnel ventilation system doesn't just move air, it filters it. The air coming out of the tunnel will actually be cleaner than the air going in. They're also creating artificial reefs with some of the excavated material. These reefs will become new ecosystems for marine life, but the environmental masterpiece is what happens to transportation in the region. Right now, those ferries burn massive amounts of fuel. Diesel engines running constantly, carrying cars and trucks back and forth. The carbon emissions are enormous. Once Rogfast opens, most of that ferry traffic disappears. The reduction in carbon emissions will be equivalent to taking 100,000 cars off the road permanently. Norway is essentially building a tunnel that pays for itself environmentally. But the environmental benefits are just the beginning. Western Norway is economically isolated. Sure, it's connected, but not efficiently. Businesses can't rely on just-in-time delivery. Tourism is limited by transportation hassles. Rogfast changes everything. Shipping companies will be able to guarantee delivery times. Manufacturers can expand their supply chains. Tourists can visit multiple cities in a single trip. But here's the part that most people miss. This tunnel creates a new economic geography. Suddenly, small towns along the route become viable locations for businesses. You can live in a quiet coastal village and commute to Bergen. You can run a manufacturing operation in a low-cost area and still have easy access to major ports. Real estate values are already changing in anticipation. Some areas are seeing property values double. Norway estimates that the tunnel will generate $15 billion in economic activity over its first 20 years. That's a 7-to-1 return on their investment. What Norway is doing with Rogfast isn't just about connecting two cities. They're writing the playbook for 21st century infrastructure. Countries around the world are watching this project because they have similar challenges. China is already adapting Norwegian techniques for underwater tunnels in their Greater Bay Area project. The UK is studying Rogfast for potential connections between England and Northern Ireland. Even the United States is paying attention. There are proposals for underwater tunnels connecting Manhattan to Brooklyn, San Francisco to Marin County. But here's what makes Norway special. They're building smart infrastructure. The tunnel will have sensors monitoring everything: air quality, traffic flow, structural integrity. Machine learning systems that can predict maintenance needs before problems occur. The tunnel's ventilation system adjusts automatically based on traffic patterns and air quality. Emergency response systems can detect accidents within seconds and dispatch help to the exact location. Every single aspect of this tunnel is connected to a central monitoring system. It will learn and adapt over time. Right now, construction is racing ahead. But Norway is facing some serious challenges. Global supply chain disruptions have increased costs by 30%. Skilled tunnel workers are in short supply worldwide. Environmental regulations are getting stricter. The coordination between 15 different construction sites is like conducting a symphony orchestra, where every musician is playing a different song. One delay at any site affects the entire timeline. And there's political pressure. Some Norwegians question whether spending $2 billion on a tunnel is the best use of their oil fund money when they could invest in renewable energy or social programs. But Norway has a secret weapon. They've done this before. Norway already has more underwater tunnels than any other country, over 30 of them. They've learned from every single project. The Lærdal Tunnel taught them about air quality management. The Eiksund Tunnel taught them about deep water construction. The Atlantic Road taught them about building in extreme weather. Rogfast is not their first rodeo, it's their masterpiece. But here's where the story gets really wild. Rogfast is not the end of Norway's underwater highway dreams. It's the beginning. They're already planning the next phase: underwater tunnels connecting Norway to Denmark, then to Germany. Eventually, a completely underwater highway network connecting all of Scandinavia. Imagine driving from Oslo to Copenhagen without ever seeing the surface of the ocean, from Stockholm to Berlin in a straight line under the Baltic Sea. And other countries are making similar plans. Japan wants underwater highways connecting their islands. Indonesia is planning tunnels between their major islands. Even Australia is considering underwater connections to Tasmania. We might be looking at the beginning of a completely new era of transportation where continents are connected by underwater highway networks. In 2033, when Rogfast opens, you'll be able to drive from one side of Norway to the other in a single day. No ferries, no weather delays, just a straight shot through the deepest underwater highway ever built. But by then, the technology Norway developed for Rogfast will already be spreading around the world. The question is, which country will be brave enough to go even deeper than Norway? And what happens when every major city in the world is connected by underwater highways that make today's transportation look like horse and buggy? Because right now, somewhere in the world, engineers are looking at Norway's success and asking themselves, if they can go 1,300 feet down, why can't we go 2,000? But Norway isn't the only country building impossible tunnels. Spain and Morocco are separated by just 9 miles of water. They've been planning a $7 billion tunnel for 30 years. So why hasn't it been built yet? Click Watch Next to see why. See you in the next video.